Record on this computer. Hello, everybody. I am here with Rachel Martin. She is the mother of 5 children, and today we're going to be talking about 2 of them. I have known Rachel for probably 2 or 3 years now. She reached out to me through my Facebook group called Real Ladies, Real standing for Real Ladies Creating Relationships that are easy, authentic, and lasting. And I emphasize on really helping teenagers and parents have a connection that is almost unheard of, because relationships with teenagers seem to be thought of as incredibly hard and miserable. So Rachel reached out to me because she has some kids that are got teenageritis, she said. And as a preface, I have a degree in marriage and family studies, emphasis in parent educating, and I am a parenting coach, and like I said, focusing on teenagers. So Rachel and I kind of have talked a little bit about the surface level stuff, but I'm going to have her share us her thoughts of if a video camera were to view her family, what is being seen by this video camera, what are the struggles of some of the teenagers that she's really concerned with. And what we're going to try to do is figure out what behaviors they're physically saying without verbally saying it, and hopefully meet those needs. So I just had a dog come in my door, so I've got to go lock my door. Give me 1 second.
Well, and while she's doing that, I will go ahead and just describe for everybody. When you walk in our door, I consider my family pretty normal. We're a little bit on the messy side at our house. We, as my husband puts it, we live in a circus filled with randomness and sometimes a great deal of chaos. Anytime that you have a larger family, I'm told 5 kids is large. I grew up with 9 kids, so this is nothing. But there's always that kind of chaos, and there's always noise and mix of people. You come in, and out of my 5, my oldest is 19, and it runs down to a 5-year-old. And so there's a great mix of personalities as well as development stages. Dad usually is the one who works outside of the home, and I work from home. I am starting an online-based business, and I'm apparently also starting a blog. So I'm home except for when I run kids. Before the pandemic, I probably spent an easily 4 to 6 hours a day in the car. So because out of 5 children, I have 4 of them. I have 4 different schools that we run people to. And that means all the activities involved and all the taxi services, and all the time spent on homework as well. A typical day at our house would have our teenager, my oldest was not living at home for a while. She was working as a nanny. And our second, who is my greatest teenageritis, a typical day with him, literally the past 9 months, has him leaving the house to go to school earlier in the morning. He usually would leave around 7:30, and then he would not come home again until after dark. He would refuse to tell us where he was or who he was with. And then on the weekends, he would go down. We'd arranged with some friends that he had a couple of safe places to go, because he would fight coming home for anything or being at home. And it was getting really bad, borderline violent with him. And so we'd arranged with some friends, families that he's best friends with, For him, they were comfortable with him and okay with him coming and spending the weekend with them. So usually Fridays he'd get up and go to school, and then we would not see him again until Sunday evening when the parent would bring him home or we would go and pick him up. Um, and then how that plays on his younger siblings was hard, because they children feel things even though they don't express it and they don't understand it. Um, Knowing that their older brother doesn't want anything to do with being home or being with the family, they take that and internalize that a bit. When he is home, my number two has his teenageritis is very extreme to the point where we've had law enforcement called 3 times. So most parents, hopefully this conversation that we're having will help you avoid the severity of what we're seeing. When I say police officers have been called, difficult as it is, they were called by me, with my husband asking me as well. And it had to do with the only other time that police have been involved was when my son had a kind of manic episode, where he just had a panic attack and walked out of a school activity. He plays cello in the school orchestra, and he walked out of a performance um, into the cold. And so he went to a store that's right immediately there by the school and got thirsty, and without thinking about it reached in and grabbed something cold to drink and didn't think through that he didn't have the money in his pocket to pay for it. So he got picked up for shoplifting. That kind of was a cold dash in the face for a time, and he did a little better. But we've still had a lot more than anything. Greatest problem is the disconnect, as a mom, lack of respect for watching him. Teenagers are often disrespectful to parents because they're learning how to separate. And that's normal. That's actually healthy.
Right.
But for it to be so loud and very in your face, all the time and consistent, was very hard for his brothers. And it became the only way we could find a way to do this with his brothers. And I am still praying that this didn't do more damage with relationships, but we had to say, your big brother has some problems. And what we need you to do now is the same thing we've always taught them, which is learn from your older siblings and the people around you, because you will learn things to do and learn things not to do. And we started literally saying, this is an example of how not to treat someone because it hurts them, because they have seen me cry. And I am a loud person. When I get emotional, I tend to get very loud. Part of it is I'm learning I have a slight hearing challenge, and so I don't realize how loud I'm getting. But more than anything, it has to do with just I'm very loud kind of personality, and everybody sees and hears me, and I just assume everybody can see and hear me. So if I get loud, it's because I'm emotional. And so the kids have all seen and heard it. But the other side of it was, before it got this severe, his behavior had taken a strong downturn. And the disrespect was so strong, and it was always in front of them. So we had to say, how do we deal with this? And just talk to them and say, this is not a good way. You know this is bad. You know it hurts people. Please remember compassion. And honestly, that's the greatest thing I fear about number two, is that he is losing a great deal of his empathy for other people and his compassion.
Okay. So where I'm thinking first, because I know that there's going to be a lot of moms that can relate to this. Um, Hopefully we haven't had to call law enforcement, but likely
Right.
have. It's incredibly common. Um, and
Well, and I want to say this one thing really fast. For us, we were very fortunate. When number two's behavior went really severe, we have a neighbor who's a police officer and has a career in law enforcement. And I actually just asked him if I could talk to him and ask him some advice. And bless his heart, he came over and was very candid with me. And I learned, thanks to that, that local law enforcement, they do have a lot of rules they have to meet. But I was accustomed to the rules that teachers have to meet and the ways that they create distance between themselves and family situations like this. That law enforcement do not. Theirs is totally different. And law enforcement can and will come into a home, evaluate if the parents are endangering the children, and if they are not, they will actually support the parents. And it's okay for you to ask for that, because sometimes, especially with teenagers, like Brinne said, that's actually a common thing. Many law enforcement, they're specifically trained to do that because it comes up so often, because teenagers do go through this. And every parent listening to this, please know it is not a mark against you to reach out for that level of help.
and when you actually shared that, that made me remember that my parents called a law enforcement friend. Um, we were preteens actually, and had this neighborhood law enforcement friend come and talk to my little brother. And I can remember still them sitting on the porch and them just him having a candid conversation about these behaviors can lead to this. And I mean, I wasn't there, but it's not a
Right.
cure-all by any means, and it's not used
No.
to be as a scare tactic, but it's just this is a reality, and we do have a lot of resources. And I think that that's one of the reasons why Rachel asked for this help is what resources are out there. And in her community, she was telling me that in order to go see a therapist, it takes months to do that because there's just a lack of them. A resource, and I'm not saying better or worse than therapy, I believe that therapy has its place, is to get some coaching, just to get a new perspective on what could be going on and what can be done to help. So I'm going to go into just a little bit of coaching here, and we'll see how far we get with the kids. But something that I know for certain is this is having an emotional toll, and it's taxing on you, right?
Yeah, it is very heavily taxing.
and and that the way that your kids are seeing you respond is taxing on them. I'm sure that it's causing behavior issues that are going on. And I'm going to guess that it's because there's so much overwhelm on what do we do? How do we handle these situations? And when he comes in and he's violent and he's not wanting to be home, how am I actually feeling about this? There's just so much bottled in there that we don't respond always in a healthy way for our immediate kid to see and then the other kids to see. So first I want to ask you, what would be your most perfect world scenario? If I literally had a magic wand and I know you're into the magic of life,
Right.
but everything is perfect, Rachel, how would number two be working within your family unit? What would your husband be doing and you be doing and all of your kids? And I'm just going to give you maybe 3 minutes just to dump out what would this perfect world look like?
For us, the perfect world would be right now we're very religious family, very, very religious. And the greatest tragedy for me has been, now y'all get to see me cry, has been seeing him lose that connection and understanding of who he is with God. And as much hurt and frustration as we go through, that has been the hardest thing to watch him turn away from, because he did choose to do so. So when somebody says, what's the ideal? Well, my ideal would be kind of a return to what he was about 3 years ago, where yes, he was getting into scrapes, and all kids make mistakes and whatnot, but he was still cooperative with the things that we would ask each of the kids to do and balancing it out. And yes, he would ask the reasons, but he would be respectful of the reasons that were given, and would still move forward even if he disagreed. Partly on his part because he knew he had to, because mom and dad said you have to do it, um, but still have him cooperating with his siblings as well, and have him looking to the future with a smile. An ideal world would have him actually excited to come and do family activities with us, or planning a family vacation, and being okay with the fact that he'd be stuck in a van with all of the kids and the family and the noise for however long, so that while we go and do our family adventure, um, for our family, more often than not, that means going to visit his extended family, his aunts and uncles and whatnot, which are in many places. But and knowing that he ideally would be attending his classes every day at school, and would be actively participating in those classes. And I know him, he's a very smart kid, very, very smart, dangerously so. And if he applied himself fully, he would breeze through those classes, and he would be doing the advanced things that would be far more exciting for him, I think. But just the thrill of being able to see your children excel, and seeing the success that comes with that.
Okay, well,
I would say, summed up, that's kind of what it would be.
I think that sounds great. I'm gonna just pick out a few that stand out to me. And I just want you to close your eyes as I say these phrases or these words, and I want you to imagine them actually happening, him doing it, and imagine, let your body feel let your body be open to getting excited, having hope, whatever things that you might be trying to push away because it might be painful. So just
Okay.
close your eyes for just a second and just imagine your son coming to God and saying, I learned what you need me to learn. I'm doing exactly what you need me to do. My path was perfect, even though it was hard. The smarts that my mom knows that I have, I used to serve me perfectly. And God, I'm coming back to you. I'm coming back to you. Do you have access to the list that I gave you?
Yep.
If you got to experience that, or whatever you're feeling right now, can you pick 3 words that stand out from this list?
Is that on the emotional or the
We're gonna
value?
we're gonna go with the values.
Okay. Well, I would say spirituality first.
Yeah.
I would say harmony and inspiration.
Is that what you are? Is that what you got to experience for just that glimpse a second ago?
Believe it or not, I would say the fourth one, if I had 4 words, would be acceptance.
I I want to go with acceptance more. Can you tell me why acceptance comes up for you?
Well, for one thing, I might have to put a pause on this long enough to grab a box of Kleenex. Hold on just a sec. Sorry, guys. Um, acceptance because it's twofold. One, I know he would be accepted. Absolutely. And without reserve, he would be accepted. And acceptance also because his doing that would mean that he was accepting all that would be offered then.
Where does acceptance come in for you as a mom for him?
The delightful acceptance of being able to have him come back. Because I also know that if he chose that, I could also accept his choices freely. Because turning to God, I've always believed very strongly, and I even taught my children, whatever path you choose or another person chooses, it doesn't matter the religious label. Um, if you're not hurting another and you turn to God and you grow closer to Him, I will always support that. And I can freely support that. I have done that with all my friends, with my own family, probably more so than my family realized.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, I know far more than a great many, especially of my extended family.
Right.
But especially as a mom with my children,
Mm-hmm.
because I know they will be happier if they choose to do that. And therefore, I can fully accept what they're doing, but it's an acceptance that allows me to support it.
And and I think when we can show up as a parent with the the knowledge of something you said was if you're not hurting another person, then I can fully accept what's going on. And unfortunately, you're being hurt by this, and your children are being hurt by this. There's a lot of hurt that isn't being acknowledged, but through that hurt, we can learn how to love even more deeply and different to these
Very
kids
true.
who are hurting us or these people who are hurting us. And of course, there definitely needs to be boundaries and whatever that is. However, I'm not going to get into that. I just want to give a perspective and just share this idea for a second. I think it's powerful. There's two things that I am a firm believer in. And the first one is There are no right or wrong, good or bad decisions. There are just decisions that are going to lead you to Jesus Christ differently and through different paths. And I know that you have shared with me, I think when you first joined the groups, that he's made decisions with drugs and alcohol and things like that that are deemed in society as bad or wrong.
Right.
And for a time, he might have to experience whatever those consequences are. But for you as a mom, if you can show up when he comes home with the idea that you are filling your purpose perfectly, you are experiencing what you need to experience. My mom shared a story with me a few months ago, and it probably didn't happen like this, but I just want to just give this idea because I think it's fun to think about, and I think there's truth to it. So imagine you and your whole entire family, grandparents, aunts, uncles, sitting at this bus stop in heaven, and as the bus comes up, it's about to take somebody down to earth, and one person just stands in front of the bus and turns around and says to their family members, I'm choosing this struggle for the duration of my life, and I need somebody that is going to almost push my buttons or hurt me enough to where I can learn the lesson that I need to learn so that I can come back to live with God. And this idea comes twofold, where there's somebody asking, first taking ownership of the struggle. I take ownership of whatever's going to happen, but then somebody else has to stand up and willingly say, I'm willing to hurt you so that you can get to where you need to go. Or I'm willing to make these decisions to help you and to help me. And one thing that I think with teenagers is they're here to help us learn something. Somewhere we stood in front of this bus and we said, I need to learn patience, or I need to learn unconditional love. Who loves me enough to let me experience that? And here by chance, possibly your number two could have stood and said, Mom, I'm going to make the most difficult life for myself so that you can learn what you need to learn, but I promise you I'm going to come back. And there's somebody else that stood in front of him at his bus stop that said, I'm going to help you come back. I'm going to help you through all of whatever you decide. He says, I'm going to do drugs. I'm going to sleep around. I'm going to make life miserable. I have no idea what all of his struggles are. I'm just going with teenage stuff.
Right.
I'm going to do all of these things, but somebody else has to be willing to say, I'm going to help you come back. We're going to help each other through all of this. Is there somebody in his life that you might think is maybe his, I'm going to help you? Has somebody shown up in his life?
Honestly, the one friend, no. He has two best friends that he would do everything with that I know. Now, like many teenagers, he doesn't talk about his friends with me. I miss the days when I would know who his friends were. But because he's deliberately separated himself and cut us off as much as possible, we don't know who his friends all are. But there is one, and because they're teenagers, you never know where they're going to go.
Sure.
But there is one I know of that will sometimes call him on it, just like he calls his friend on it. But other than that, honestly, right now, no. The friends that he's chosen to surround himself with are the ones that will patiently ignore all of his behavior that's hard and support it even. So does that mean in the future that he won't? No. I fully expect that because I've watched people reach out to him in the past, and I know I'm not the only one not giving up on him.
Right.
But again, like I said, I'm very religious, and I believe very firmly that God's not done with the boy yet. So that means someday there will be, when he's ready and people do reach out to him.
Yeah.
But can I see any of them right now? Not that he would accept,
Okay.
but they're working on it.
So let's go into what he values really quickly and just see if we can, because in your perfect world, you guys are going on vacation, you guys are in each other's presence, and it's pleasant and not drudging along. So let's just think for just a second. We can see the negatives of his choices, and we can say there's no good. He's experiencing no good by what he's doing. However, he's getting something, or else he wouldn't keep doing it. This is whatever he's filling his bucket with is filling a need. So we're going to put values with his behaviors, and we're going to use good words so that our mindset can hopefully think of new ways to help him experience what he's trying to experience just differently. And he may or may not respond to it, but as long as we show up in a good, wholesome, well-intentioned light and we know what we want, then hopefully they'll respond differently. So let's just think, we're going to go to our core values list again. What is number 2 trying his darndest to experience? 3 values.
Number 1 is acceptance.
Okay.
Another one is play. And another one is discovery. Now, just to clarify, were you asking me words that he would use or that I observe?
You know what? Let's go with both. Let's give him, what words do you think, are these his words or your words?
They're my words.
Okay, your words from your observation. And what words would he say, do you think? And of course, he probably doesn't have this vocabulary, especially if he's in a negative cycle. He's not going to see this. What do you think?
Well, acceptance is definitely one. And again, play. The third is a lot harder. Maybe adventure.
Perfect. You have 4 words there. That's perfect. So your son is trying to experience acceptance, play, discovery, and adventure. And he's going about it in a way that you wouldn't particularly choose for him, but he's trying to experience these things. And you've already said he doesn't want to be in your home. He doesn't want to be with you guys. Well, let's just turn a new leaf. And you, through this conversation that's lasted less than an hour, I feel like you've experienced a little bit of acceptance. Are you feeling a little bit different towards acceptance? Maybe?
Acceptance of the situation, you mean, or?
There's been tears of possibility, him coming back to Christ. He's going to be okay.
Being able to accept that hope is powerful, yes. And that is something I've felt. in truth, and this is a little bit separate, um, a little over 2 years ago, I lost my mom. I went through a 4-month period of very harsh mourning because I lost my mom, my grandma,
I remember that.
my best friend, another very good friend, two of my cousins. My husband has an adored uncle that we were grieving. Many people that were very close and dearly loved. Um, so when I say I can empathize with anyone mourning, I mean, I really mean it.
Mm-hmm.
I may not know your shoes, but
Mm-hmm.
I do know that. And as a mother with your teenagers, you mourn the loss of your ideal. And as you said, acceptance, you learn to accept. And I'm trying to learn to accept or find ways to accept their ideal. And so in that way, I'm definitely more on the path and recognizing that that's the path I'm on. Um, and that's the help. That's a huge help.
So what I'm thinking is, let's simply just come up with a few action steps of what we could do to accept his ideal. And what you've discovered as his ideal, or what he's valuing through his behaviors, is play, discovery, and adventure. And like we already said, he doesn't want to be a part of the family. He doesn't want to be all there. But let's just work as if we got to experience the ideal. And let's just say we're going to offer opportunities for him to experience play in your home. What could that look like? Or maybe just experience play within your family. And this could be something that you pray about and think about. We could just.
I think you're right. It is. Um, the pause here is honestly, and so other people realize I'm not actually ignoring, I'm actually typing, so I can actually write down the advice.
Right.
Because I'm a very visual person, and so it helps me remember what my next step is.
Yeah.
But
so all
it's a really good challenge to learn to accept those three ideal words for him.
Yeah.
You know, those three values. Yeah.
Play, discovery, and adventure. And he probably does want to experience a sense of acceptance, that I'm going to be loved no matter what. I'm going to be accepted no matter what. Because if he's accepted, if he feels that acceptance, he's going to show up differently. But he's probably intending, honestly, fighting head on.
Right now, and this is taking a step back a little bit from the parenting teenagers broad spectrum to a very specific moment in time. Right now, it's a worldwide pandemic, and everyone is taking different isolation measures. Definitely. And for our household in particular, partly because people can have their opinions about me all they like, but I talk with people internationally on a daily, weekly, and sometimes daily and multiple times a day basis. And in the last 2 months, that means that I have helped a woman who could not find a priest who was not occupied to be able to say prayers over her dead daughter. It meant mourning with a friend who had just buried his parents, his wife, his only child, and was sitting vigil at his best friend's deathbed in China. Another friend in Italy who had just lost his aunt who had basically raised him and couldn't be there to help his uncle. Helping other friends find a way in the middle of pandemic in America to transport their mother who had abruptly died middle of the night to where their graveside was next to their father in a separate state. A lot of hard things. And for me as the mom, I promise that will make you paranoid. You will take strong measures And in our case, we have a lot of health reasons that we have also done so that are specific to this timing. So we told everybody, including the teenagers, you're not going anywhere. Get used to it. Until work opens back up, that's the exception. Dad is the one to go to the store, or you go for work. And other than that, nobody goes anywhere. And it has led to a lot of very interesting time. One huge blessing was that number 2 has begun playing with the other 4, something we have not seen in a year. He had not sat down.
Play.
Exactly. He sat down and played with the 5-year-old and crawled around on the floor and tickled and wrestled, and it was terrific. And I've seen him do similar things with the other kids in different ways. That's kind of finding ways to accept. I've watched him grow towards that and recognizing somewhat of the ways that we've said we can accept these things if you'll let us. But that's without all of the myriad of pressures and influences that come from outside of the home. And so I'm hoping we can.
Oh dear. If this is still recording on my part, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Hopefully that's still recorded, all of it. I don't know. We'll see, hopefully. So
Well, where did it cut off for you?
I got cut off right with, even though the outside, all the myriad noises of the outside, those are gonna sound, and I just want to build off of that just really quickly. Those are going to sound louder because that's what they want to hear. That's the play that he wants to experience. So for you as the mom here to gain power and control for yourself, search for other ways that he's experiencing play within your home and see if you can offer other places for him to experience play in your home during the pandemic. Where have you seen any discovery come up since the pandemic and him being home more?
Not in the ways that he would like.
Sure. They're not.
No, he's discovered. I would say the discovery is his self-discovery.
Yeah.
And he's learning a little bit through experience of what it is that his dad and I have been talking about. He really wanted to do homeschool so that he could get through high school as fast as possible. And I said, I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole because before everything happened, I said a typical day. There were a lot of not typical days where we couldn't even get him out of bed.
Right.
And if he were homeschooled, I know that fight would be worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I would then be the one responsible to enforce that. So I told him no on the homeschool. And I think he's discovering why, because as he's had to do online learning, it's a touch of homeschool. And yeah, and discovery about himself that sometimes you can just accept that the answer is no, no matter how much you argue your way around it. It's just no sometimes.
Yeah.
And finding ways to move forward. Finding ways for him to play is a bit of a hard thing because he buries himself on the computer. He does have a cell phone that's Wi-Fi access only. And we have that's a reward for all of our kids that they can play once they do their schoolwork. And so as soon as that's done, he gets on his phone and he's playing games and he's chatting with his friends there.
Right.
I have no idea what he does.
Right.
because we don't see any of it. But
So here's what.
I'm not sure what other ways I could find for him to play, but that is a challenge.
So that's what I want this to be, a challenge for you and John to maybe just sit and come up with. He's trying to experience play. He's trying to experience discovery. He's trying to experience some sort of adventure. How can we just offer without enforcing, without pushing those? How can we meet those needs differently? And he can say no. It's okay for him to say, no, I don't want to participate. It's just great for you and John to know this is what he's trying to experience. Let's offer other perspectives, other options for him. And if he wants to come, that's great. And we joy in that. We joy in the times when he plays on the floor with his brothers. We not always necessarily praise him for it, and it doesn't have to be done vocally, but really sit in that gratitude as you get to watch that, because that's your son coming back to his true identity, stuff like that. So maybe what I'll have you do for homework for this, take these to God. Say, God, we've had this great conversation today. How would you have me offer play to him? How would you offer, how would you have me offer discovery? Is there something adventurous that I haven't thought of, that you have thought of, that would meet his need? Pull God into this with specific prayers and see what answers come, because I'm sure you've been praying for him. I'm sure it's on the forefront of your mind all the time. But here's a different prayer. Here's a different specific prayer. And then I'd love for you to share in our group maybe what you've experienced. And I want just to point out, it is okay for him to say, no, I'm not going to participate. We do not, a lot of times when I see a lot of struggles go on in homes, it's because they've dropped the aspect of play and they just don't play with each other and they don't have fun with each other. And so their kids don't go along with it and it becomes awkward to play with each other. Just keep trying. If it doesn't work this time, it might work next time. And it may not work the next time, but it might work the next time. So I just want to know, after our conversation today, and let's hold on to the depression. Rachel's been telling me that she has a number 3 that's showing symptoms and signs of depression, and my internet is unstable, so we'll do that another time, because it's definitely going to show up during the pandemic. So
big time.
So let's leave that for another conversation. But what feelings are you experiencing right now? And
a lot of it's reassurance.
Great.
For parents, as you go through this, especially if you struggle with your own self-image and your own self-confidence at all, for whatever reasons, when your teenagers start questioning you, or even more so when they start saying, Mom, that's stupid, you're wrong, that's not fair, that's not right, and they start telling you all the ways that you screwed up, you start doubting yourself. And worse is when, and it's just like, for parents with toddlers, you hear the words eventually of, I hate you, Mom. Teenagers do it too. Be prepared, because somebody told me a lie once. They said the harder they are as toddlers, the easier they are as teenagers. I'll tell everyone right now, it's a lie. Don't buy into it. The child that told you as a toddler, I hate you, will tell it to you again. You're right.
You're right.
And for some people, that really For me, it's the words, it's not worth it. You're not worth it. Those are not permanent, and those are not about you. I've had a friend that she knew I was struggling, so she came and asked me what I've learned from the struggles, because she was starting down that path with her son. And I said, no matter what, just remember, their fight isn't really with you, it's with themselves. But as mom, as dad, you have to remember that and tell yourself that you're okay. You're not perfect. You're not supposed to be perfect, because this is a learning path for you too. I'm told it's the same way for grandparents, that it's a learning path for them. Parenting at any age and any generation is a learning path, and you are okay, particularly if you're not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
We have that. I used to work for a prosecuting attorney's office, and so I saw a lot, and so that became a standard line. And for me, it's the reassurance from this coaching session. It's the reassurance that it's the reminder, I am okay. I am worth it. And so are my efforts with him, especially. And that there is hope, because neither one of us are going anywhere. Not because of the pandemic, but in life. We
Because
can
you don't
still
want
reach
to.
out to each other.
Because you're going to keep choosing him, and you hope that
Right.
one day he is going to choose you and your family. And that is
Right.
rare. So
Right.
something that I also just want to add on with exactly what you said, that it's not about you, and it's not about what's going on with you. Something that's very when I say that I'm a parent educating coach, I do work with teenagers, I do work with the toddlers, and I give perspectives and ideas with them. But really what we focus on is typically the mom. We work on what are her focuses. You say, I'm alone, or it's not worth it. Whatever those are, we typically have one or two focuses that run our lives. And as a coach, I help the moms figure out what their focus is. Because if we can figure out what that main focus is, and it's typically just a sentence, like, for example, I have a focus of people are inconsiderate and my needs don't matter. And I came up with that through a formula that I've learned through coaching. And so it's very easy for me to, when my kids are acting up, for me to say, you're unintentionally, subconsciously saying, you're being inconsiderate to me and my needs don't matter. Therefore, I'm going to act out of anger and respond this way. We all have these focuses that are oftentimes driven from childhood traumas. And so we really focus on what are those focuses that you have, so that we can identify what those are, so you can show up differently and not pass them on to your kids. So with all of that, if anybody is watching this that wants a free coaching session like this, I typically do a 1-hour free coaching session where we talk about things similar to this. And then if you're interested in learning more and participating in my coaching sessions, I have sessions 1 through 8 or 1 through 18 that I can take you through that really solidify and build your confidence in yourself and your parenting skills. So there's my sales pitch of that. But really, I appreciate your willingness, Rachel, to do this. This is really scary. And when I created this group, this is actually something that I really wanted to incorporate. But it's hard to find people that are willing to be so vulnerable and say, my family's not perfect and I'm willing to do something about it, but I don't know how. So thank you. And if you have other questions, I'm here for you.
Thanks, Brinne.
Do you have anything?
I'll reach out. Good luck, everybody.
Is it the word solidarity? You guys just know we are all experiencing the same things, just differently. And I'm willing to bet that a lot of our emotions and our feelings are very much the same. So if you think that you're alone, you're probably really not. So anyway, thank you, Rachel, and good luck experiencing play, discovery, and adventure. And I'd love a little report on what you come up with. So
Great.
thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. Bye.